Yes, some breaking news straight from the Shelter FootyCast studios here at BackChat Studios. Mark Redding has discovered how to turn the flashlight off on his phone, thanks to some help from Dan Cons. But as we stay in the tech space, I want to talk about the new feed. Okay, so we are on Spotify, new feed over at Spotify. But I believe Mark Reddings has taken over the control of the Apple feed, and we are still not live on Apple with the Shelter FootyCast.
Good morning to you, Scully. The only feed I know is just going and getting some hot dogs and a pie and sauce. And I went to I'm not sure about your weekend. You look like you've...
Scrubbed up quite nicely.
No, you've actually got shoes on for a start, but it's just the black ensemble I really like. No, I was at a 60th birthday party, okay?
Yes.
For a mate of mine, Dixie Marshall.
I didn't hear about this.
We've got a fan who's in the mix. Now, Dixie and Luke Morfess, who's the head media... Fremantle. They've got two lovely kids, Matilda and Charlie. Now, shout out to Charlie, young bloke.
Charlie.
Who is a regular listener to this podcast.
Shelter FootyCast.
Absolutely. So Charlie's about 6'5". In fact, got you covered. 6'5".
Wow.
Loves it. Good young lad. Loves his footy. So to Charlie, keep listening, my friend, and we'll hopefully give you some insight and some footy news through the course of the year.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I did hear about this as well from Simon Beaumont. Now, Simon Beaumont's been on this show, the Shelter FootyCast, when I was away in Europe, gallivanting around Amsterdam, wherever else I was. It was a dress-up party. What did you go as?
I went as I had an old shirt, Damien Martin, who obviously played for Australia. And
his actual shirt?
His actual shirt, yeah. Just
wow.
Yeah, that's just the way I roll.
Good.
No, well, I've been in sport for 30 years. At some stage, you're going to keep...
So you went as a cricketer?
I went as a cricketer, one-day cricketer.
I heard you were looking very good.
Yeah, well, I did my best. My wife, talking about punching above, my wife had the tennis outfit on, and seriously, I looked like some absolute numpty with my yellow cap on. She's walking around like like Anna Kournicova's mum, and here I am, sitting in the corner, having a couple of shelters and just getting myself. And I tried when I got home just quickly.
Oh.
I'd had my fill.
Okay.
And I went and pulled myself a bourbon, sat down. And my missus grabbed me by the ear and she said, "You're not drinking anymore." And I got told, "You're going to bed." I don't remember anything else after that.
The Shelter FootyCast, where we bring you the great news around, and that was some good stuff. So I'm going to be tracing down that photo for everyone listening at home. You can follow us on socials, and I make a promise to you as listeners, I will find a photo of Skeeter and his beautiful wife at the dress-up party. Now, Shelter's Summer of Sour, that's still going on. We're challenging people to push their boundaries. Any sours rolling around?
We only gave me one. I've drunk that. So if I get some more under the belt, I'll certainly have a dash.
Getting excited for this weekend coming. We are headed down to Shelter for a live show down there. Won't be live for people to come to. We were concerned, safety concerns about the popular. Mark Reddings' safety. Didn't have the money for hiring security and all that jazz.
Kidding me?
Well, and there was some Backstreet Boys have been in town, so they had the security detail.
So we're going to do a show just like this, sitting by ourselves.
We are. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Get maybe some behind the scenes footage for everybody. Make sure you get a haircut before you come down there, Skater. Make sure you're looking good and proper. Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton, WA. Now let's get into it. We're talking absolute jargon here. Some big moments over the weekend. We had our first look at footy. It was great that footy was back. You and I called the West Coast game. It was good just to see footy happening for real.
Yeah, and the fans were excited. And for me, the best part of the match we saw, West Coast Port Adelaide, is just seeing the young faces on new players, and even recycled players, so to speak, like whether it's Junior Rioli, Jason Horne-Francis from Port Adelaide, and of course from West Coast. A lot to like about. Elijah Hewitt. Now let's put a lid on this, but a couple of little moments we thought this is a kid that's hit the ground running here. Campbell Chesser, nice signs from him as well.
Jaden Hunt looked good for Melbourne.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a bit more experienced, isn't he, given his time at Melbourne. And Noah Long, who I thought was better the longer the game went and moved up the ground. So there was a lot to like, and let's just put it into context. It was a match simulation, no Nick Nat with Achilles. Do you reckon he had that? There's a bit of chat that maybe Luke Shuey with a hamstring soreness, but you reckon they'll play this week?
I think Luke Shuey will. It looked like he was doing now. I can't confirm or deny this, but it looked to my eye that he was doing the session that you do coming off a soft tissue injury. So I'm not sure what exactly he was doing, but there was some coverage of him in the media doing a training session right before the ground. We got there and he was finishing off a training session by himself. That was the tick off to train session. Look, just say nothing's changed too much in that space since I left the footy club. he was doing a soft tissue injury return. So hopefully he'll be good. The good thing about that session is when you do it, you train the next week and you play that following week. That's what the plan is. So as long as no mishaps, we'll see Luke Shuey. Not sure about Nick Nananui. Hopefully we get to see Ruben Jimby. That'd be good, I think, from a West Coast point of view. We'll get a little bit more deeper into it and break it down. I thought before we get there, though, a couple of other big moments. Patrick Dangerfield, captain of the Geelong Cats, with Tom Stewart, his vice-captain. Now, I know as much as I love a backman and I would have loved to see a defender leading that club, it's probably the right call.
Right call, no question. He's a statesman, and I saw the vision of him in the rooms talking to his teammates about it. I think the 54th skipper of the footy club.
Got some history, yeah.
And they got some great history there. In fact, an extension to that, having watched Show Me the Money, I think on Friday afternoon on the weekend, just finishing that doco off, the fact when I think it was Jack Bowes who was doing a tour of the facility, and Tom Stewart and Paddy Dangerfield were just showing him through the legends and really giving him a look at the history and the success that this club has had, particularly in the last 20 years. They've been just a juggernaut. So, yeah, Dangerfield, I don't think one person. I mean, interesting, I saw on Twitter yesterday, Daniel Cherney put out a tweet saying, has there been a more accomplished first-time captain? I think with 8 All-Australians, obviously a flag, a Brownlow, might be 4 F&Bs.
I mean, Dan didn't ask the question. He more or less stated it. Now, Dan, a good friend of mine, works at Code Sports. He stated is the most accomplished. Twitter's a beautiful place sometimes, but if you leave
yourself open though, because particularly how old's Dan? He's 30.
Yeah, about my age.
Yeah,
probably.
So to be fair, and it's a bit like talking outside your era.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
That was beautifully done, Dan. That was just outstanding.
He must just be hovering over that button
because he can press that pretty regularly. Yes. He's been kind of but obviously a bloke. I think it's Brett Bartlett came out, Tigers man. He mentioned that Kevin Bartlett, who was named captain and obviously had a wonderful career prior to that, there was something like 4 flags, leading goal kicker. He had a very good resume. Which
Gary Ayres was thrown. I saw his name being thrown out there. There's been some accomplished non-captains before. That's what I learned from that post. Patrick Dangerfield's going to be a great leader. He's already a great leader. You can see the way he speaks. I mean, he's been president of the AFLPA for feels like 10 years. He can lead, and Geelong, I think, probably make the safe decision. It's like, okay, well, like we have a ready-made captain.
Why overlook the obvious?
Yeah, correct. You don't need to make things up, especially in the form they're in, defending premiers. How was Show Me the Money? And can you just explain exactly what it is for people who don't know what that is?
So it's a second series. So as was last year, the player managers, the countdown, and it was very much this year focused on the WA element of Griffin Logue and Rory Lobb and Colin Young, and the drama that went on in the last hour, and had vision of Colin running in between rooms at the death to try and get the deal done.
It's a focus on trade period.
It is indeed. Look, I enjoyed it. I get it. But I can tell you now, if anyone tells me that player managers don't enjoy a bit of Hollywood, they're kidding themselves. Because Paul Connors, as he said, Paul said, look, you know what? We're not curing cancer. It is just footy, but there's a lot to go into it. And I thought it was really well put together. Luke Tunnicliffe and Cos Cardone, blokes that I know, executive producers, and put it together. It was just, I enjoyed it being a footy person. I think you'd sit back and have a look. But gee, interesting. Roy Lobb sort of potting Justin Longmuir and the crew at Fremantle with the coaching in the last year, saying he didn't get a lot of love from them. He still had his best years, so I don't know. It was interesting to hear it. And as for Griffin Logue, his situation was slightly different. I don't blame him for going for other opportunities. Right. But it was interesting. I'll put it this way. There's I'm not sure Fremantle were overly happy with the way they were portrayed. Not so much by it was what was said, but whether they were happy with what Rory said. And of course, and bear in mind, Colin Young is the manager of Rory Lobb.
Yes.
Who was then criticising essentially Justin Longmuir.
Yes.
Youngie manages Justin Longmuir. So there's a bit there. It's fascinating, but you know what? It's good theatre and it's reality TV.
I'm not sure if that is the relationship anymore between Longmuir and Young. Not 100% sure. Please don't quote me on that, but I'm saying it on a podcast, so I'm sure it will be. But the thing about these documentaries, right, taking all Hollywood aside, and you got to remember they've got a camera and microphones at all times. So what you see or what everyone sees, it's about 1/100th of what's actually happened.
You mean like maths?
Yes, just like maths, Skeeter. just like maths. So the producers and the directors and whoever was putting it together, they're not going to pull out
the boring
stuff.
stuff.
Like, oh, geez, I love Fremantle. They're a great organisation.
Exactly.
And, I'm really, really happy with how they've treated me. But I've had some issue with the coaches. I've had some issues with the coaches, and you don't cop the first part.
And I will just quickly give you a story before we move on. That happened to me once. A guy called Murray Arnold was coach of the Perth Wildcats.
Yes.
And I went and got interviews after his sacking and interviewed Andrew Vlahov. And his line was, Murray was a really good coach, but I gave him a lot of credit. But X, Y, Z, this, we think it's probably in the best interest that he has moved on, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got to, I think it was Channel 9 at the time. My story was running 1 minute 45, which was quite long. So I had to cut it back, so lose 10, 15 seconds. I cut back the part where Andrew said positive things about Murray Arnold and just left the negative stuff in there. I then went to a Wildcats launch a week later and realised it was, and being a young journo, this is, I think I might have been 20 years, 21, 22 years of age.
Wow.
Andrew wasn't very happy at all. And it was and he's a big unit, and it was quite intimidating, and he was not a happy man. So
did you apologise?
So what happened was, I wrote him a letter. I wrote him a letter saying, stop laughing.
Penned him.
I penned him a letter. I wrote him a letter saying, apologies, my bad, something along those lines. Didn't mean to misconstrue what you said or give it in the wrong context, blah, blah, blah. Didn't hear back from him. But then I went to do play a corporate game of golf, and I teed off, and he was the group behind me. And all I heard as I was walking down the fairway is the big Drew give it the old, hey, Reddings. I thought, oh, far out. And he's going, all good, mate, got it, sorted. Forgiven, essentially. It was, but you know what? If you're wrong, you put your hand up. And that was just my incident, my moment where editing was unfair to the recipient.
Very good. I thought he might have been teeing up the golf ball and just lining you up nicely.
He probably was.
I'm going to absolutely tee off here. Forehead. Just quickly before we get into the Fremantle and West Coast games, Australian women win the World Cup T20. Third time in a row.
They've won 6. I don't even know there'd been 6. They are superstars. And look, they had a bit of a scare against India, but they beat South Africa last night. Beth Mooney, outstanding. They've just got every base covered. And there's a nice Perth Scorchers flavour in there. Shalinitsky, the coach.
They are dominators. To be that good at a sport, to win as often as they do, a team sport, mate, like... Some men, women. It does not matter. Will not matter. They are incredible.
The gap is closing though. The gap is in women's T20.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, the Australians have been great. You think of, and we're including men here. Australia's men's cricketers back in Ricky Ponting, Gillies sort of time. I think 19 tests in a row. That's pretty dominant.
These girls are better. They're better. They're better than that.
Well, it's different formats, but you're right. But across all formats, they've been outstanding.
Dominant as a team.
Yes.
They're better.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, the competition between the best and the worst in women's cricket is a bit more pronounced, but in terms of results, absolutely.
Still got to get it done. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, shout out FootyCast. Let's jump into the game we didn't see first, Skeeter. Adelaide defeating...
Waiting for some Travis Kelce coming through.
Adelaide defeat Fremantle. Our colleagues across the road, Adam Papalia and Lee Spur, called this one.
Seven stages or 7 periods.
7 periods.
Oh,
and
they were knackered.
They were exhausted. You and I packed up the gear after 4. They said, do you want to do 6? And we said, oh, sorry, we're just leaving. Bye-bye. Adelaide, Fremantle. Adelaide... win, and I say that in inverted commas, because at pre-season time, it's really, really important to understand that the scores don't matter, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose, although the players do want to win. You don't rock up going, geez, I hope we don't win this. Don't care. You do care, and you are playing to win, but if you don't win, it doesn't mean anything. Other than, I think, in this scenario, Fremantle, more expectation this year. They're a year older. The group's been together. You got Nat Fyfe playing forward. You got Jackson trying to integrate into the team. You got some moving parts, right? I think a loss to them is better than having a 6-goal win against Adelaide. You sort of go, okay, well, everything we're doing is working and we're fine and we're ticking the boxes. Yeah, we weren't amazing, but we're going to be fine. You get a little loss, right? And again, doesn't mean anything. Monday's meeting today will be stern. It'll be like, there's instances where Adelaide were better than Fremantle. So it's like, well, how do we stop this? Can we tweak this? it is a better result for Fremantle as a whole as they look towards the premiership season. Now, again, doesn't matter, they lose, but there was some promising signs from both sides. Nat Fyfe kicked 3 goals. I think that's a positive thing. I mean, he's the guy that I think there's going to be a lot of reliance on him and this forward line success.
What are we looking at from Nat? 40-plus goals. Gives it a big
tick. If he kicks 40, I mean...
That's a again, what are the Coleman medal the last few years? Let's be honest. They've been 60, plus goals.
If Fyfe kicks 40, you'd think you'd have at least one popping up for 30, if not a couple of guys below him. So then you've suddenly got like 100 goals between 3 guys. So those sorts of players would be Taberner, be Schultz, be Frederick, be Walters. Like, I would think between those 4 guys, at least one is kicking 30 and Fyfe kicks 40 to 50. Well, I think you're going pretty well.
Yeah, I think you also have to bear in mind what was seen on Friday from Fremantle. You're right, there's some adjustment. You talked about the ins, but also, okay, Blake Acres gone. How does that play out?
I forget, that's a big loss.
And Griffin Logue, not so much. But there's 5 guys that they've, would have, Darcy Tucker was a bit of a fringe player, but there's still some adjustment, I would have thought, to those guys going at and what that means to the team and how they look without them.
Jager O'Meara coming in and slotting straight into it. It looks like Mundy's role, like realistically. Inside, can go a little bit forward.
Inspired, at this point, inspired sort of trade.
Was that covered in?
Yes, it was indeed.
It was sort of
late
last
in the piece.
minute,
Yeah, Youngie was talking about that. He said, this has come out of nowhere, and he from what the camera showed, he was caught off guard, as were a lot of people.
That'd be instigated by Fremantle, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so Jager, there was down to 2 clubs, the Giants and also Fremantle as his 2 sort of possibilities. And given what's transpired, they tell me someone knows him pretty well and said, look, just an amazingly good bloke, good-looking, very good-looking rooster. Just getting.
I heard that from Hamish Brayshaw.
That's right.
Very impressed.
Yeah, very impressed by his chiselled looks. But also, he's just got engaged. So he's got a lot of things happening in his life, Jager, and. Yes. End of the day, I think it could be a lovely marriage, dare I say, between he and Fremantle, because I think he's still got probably 3, 4, 5 years left in him. I would have thought. Yeah, happy days if he can stay sound.
Yeah, I think he's been pretty consistent with his body. He did have some injuries with his knee, but I've seen him talk about it, and it looks like he's got that under control. He sort of just slid under the radar, I think, a little bit. The other guys that I'll be really interested in, I mentioned before, is Matty Taberner. He kicked 2 goals. Can he be the centre half forward that Fremantle Dockers need? Look, not to be 70 goals and win the Coleman. Can he be the guy that takes some attention from defences? We have to pay Matt Taberner attention, because if we don't, he kicked 8 goals in the game last year against Essendon. Like, can he be that guy more often than not that takes the better defender? And then you get Fyfe, then you get Jackson having a look at guys that aren't the team's best defender. That's if you look at teams and how they're structured, and you can have great players, but if you can have depth as a back line, in my experience, the hardest forward lines to match up on are the guys that have depth. That the 4th and 5th forwards, you can't just have guys rolling off them, and if you can have consistent guys. So Matty Taberner was in and out of the team last year. Can he be the guy that's in there every week? Just put him on the board. He's our centre half forward. We can put pieces around him. All those guys I mentioned, we can put all those guys around him. Taberner doesn't need to kick many goals as long as he's out there and he's a presence.
And if he can, we talked to 5 kicking 40 for the year potentially, or maybe as an optimistic number. Well, the same for Taberner, but it's about keeping him out there as well, because his body has let him down from time to time. He looks like one of those footballers. If he kicks a goal early or takes a good mark early, he does look like a confidence player. Did you ever play much on him?
Who was that, sorry?
Matty Taberner?
Yeah, I really liked him in terms of, like, as a forward. He had speed, he had endurance, he was a good mark. Like any forward, when I used to do research, he was a confidence guy. So if you could shut him down early, and you could be really aggressive early and move his body, that was always, honestly, like pretty much everyone I ever played on, that were the things I used to focus on was, can I be aggressive early? Can I move them out of position so they don't start well? If you don't start a game well, it puts the pressure on them.
Did you, and speaking of being aggressive, I'm obviously thinking physically, did some players you think were vulnerable to maybe
to
just...
the lip?
Yeah,
and some guys not. Can
you any ones that you
Buddy Franklin, do not speak to Buddy. Oh, he wants it. He's
really?
He's a big show.
But does he chirp back?
Yep. And one of the great chirpers of all time. But he's one of the great forwards, and he knows it. And you're just in no position of power. It's like guys like that. Why would you? Because he's just, like, what have you got? Oh, yeah, buddy, you shit house last week. And he'd be like, yeah, how my Coleman medal's looking above my bed, mate. That sort of stuff. I walked down to him one week, and he's like calling me down. And then I got there, and he's like pretending to yell up to the box, like, Simo, who's this? Who's this? I don't know who this is. You sent him down to play on me. He knows exactly who you are. He's one of the all-time. But then, yeah, I definitely had guys that I used to target verbally.
Did you verbal to go either GF?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I had... Yes, yeah.
Well,
Longer story, but yeah. So that grand final, without reflecting too.
No. But was it a pre-plan?
I went into that grand final treating that like my last game, and I would do anything to win. Like literally, I remember waking up in the morning and sort of saying to myself, I'll die. Something.
Yeah.
But like I will. If I have to choke someone out, if I have to punch, if I have to do anything, like it wasn't a no rules thing, but it was like no consequences here. Like I will do anything. And then I had a bit of material that came across the desk about Jordan on grand final day that I did use, but I've never revealed what that was. So there's a nice little teaser for you, Skeeter. Adelaide defeating Fremantle. Like I said, I wouldn't read too much into it, other than there was some real positives from Fremantle, and they will be today, Monday, sitting there going, what did we not do well? How can we stop that, and how can we get better? And I'd read more out of the way they play against Port Adelaide than they did against Adelaide.
Because I think Port Adelaide, from what I saw and we saw, I still liked what they put out there. And they had moments where they dominated the Eagles. They've got so many bases covered. Travis Boak, by the way, we saw that. I think he's been cleared of any serious.
Yeah.
So that was a
shocking hit.
Really big hit.
I spoke to Jeremy McGovern after the game, and I said, did it feel bad? And he said, I felt my knee go through his body. I felt my knee come out the front of his chest. Like it was just, he said, like I wasn't trying, when you saw it, I wasn't trying to, I was trying to sort of time my jump, and at the last moment, he Boak, really threw his body back to try to body McGovern, and it just mistimed it. And he said, I felt so bad, because guys like that, you have a lot of respect for.
And obviously, and you don't want to hurt anyone in a pre-season game. And that you could tell he put his hand down to apologise. I've got to say, I think it's Jackson Flindell from the Sunday Times West. What a pick! That's a clubhouse leader for the Footy Media Guild.
Superman.
Pick of the year.
Yeah, it was very good. So let's get into this game. West Coast defeat Port Adelaide 84-76. Yep, they'll play finals. Absolutely. They may win the premiership, West Coast. I've just said Fremantle, Adelaide doesn't matter. Well, West Coast win this game. They will win the flag. No.
Tell you what, I was with Millsy on 6PR about a little while ago, and he just laughed at your comments about playing finals. He said they'd be lucky to win 2 games by the halfway mark of the season.
They'll be 2-0 after 2 rounds. So cheers, Millsy. Who does Millsy go for?
He goes for a team that's won 1 premiership in 1966, and they've got a heap of injuries. Jack Billings,
Goes to
Max
St
King.
Kilda.
Yeah, of course he does.
That sums up Millsy
and a bit of Fremantle.
just absolutely perfectly. Like a St Kilda fan.
But he also waxes and wanes between because he's trying to keep everyone on board.
He's also a good performer, Millsy, so I'm sure he would have known that bagging my comments about that might have fired up his audience, especially West Coast people. Look, mate, if West Coast don't improve from last year,
of course they will.
There's actually no chance that they don't improve.
That doesn't mean they're going to play finals, but
I think
you're being brave.
I think they will.
I think realistically they win 8 to 10 games. It's a tick. It has to be.
Yeah. And you're gonna need to win more than that to play finals.
Of course, but maybe another 2 more wins. But I think they're going to be. I think you're right. You don't have to be that good to play finals. I say that with all due respect. You win half your games, and you're knocking on the door.
And they should win a lot at home. I've seen their home draw. They've got some decent sides coming across, but they should win their home draw, and then they've got to win away from home.
3 or 4 games away from home.
So like. All this stuff, right? Predictions are predictions. Like, I could be wrong, I could be right. Who bloody knows? But all I said on radio, I was saying my things, and people are ringing up going nuts at me, and they're not going to win. It's like, okay, why? Like, why won't they make finals? If you say, well, they won't make finals, why? I can say whatever I like, but if I have some reason, and my reasons are, West Coast have got effectively 12 new players. They've got 5 to 6 new guys, and they've got 6 guys that played under 10 games. So if you replace your 12 worst on the list with, and 6 of those 12 that are coming in are all Australian, they're best and fairest winners, So McGovern, Yo, Nananui, Allen, Sheed, Cole. So 4 of those are premiership players. Oscar Allen's not a premiership player, but before he missed every game last year, he was the guy. He was upward trajectory, captain of the footy club. People are forgetting how good he was going to be. He was outstanding in the practice match, was he not?
Yeah, he was.
He was very good. On a good defender as well in Jonas. And then Nick Nananui, I mean, he's not a premiership player, but he speaks for himself. He's won a best and fairest, and he's been probably the best ruckman in the last 20 years over a period of time. I know right at this second he's not, but the way he's been able to play for a long amount of time, I don't see how they don't win 10. And if they can win 10, they can win 12, and then you can play finals.
Yeah, you're in the discussion for sure. Look, I am concerned about the lack of backup for Nick Nat. I know Williams and Jamison were solid. Can
I just speak on that point? So what we saw in this practice match, a very small sample, holding the ball was called, unless it was a get ball tackled and it was just like no chance, it was holding the ball.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you tried to get out, didn't matter. It was holding the ball straight away.
The dragging in was an issue, which obviously has become not so much. But now players tackle, they go to ground.
Yeah,
it's your obligation, irrespective of how many bodies around you. Otherwise, you're cooked.
We didn't have stats in the game, but I can guarantee you that was one of the lowest mid-ground stoppage, around the ground stoppages.
4 umpires, first time we've had a look. I didn't notice them, which is good.
They're just not going to be as if they umpire like that, especially at the start of the year. There's not going to be stoppages. They want the game to keep going. They want to go, all right, your ball, let's go, let's keep the ball, And the secondary part of that is how fast both teams played. I don't know if not having ruck depth as an issue. I don't think that's going to be a big issue this year for any team because of those two things.
Okay, let me throw one other quick one to you about the Eagles. Are you worried about their? I know you mentioned Oscar Allen. Have they got enough scoring options?
Yeah, I mean that is the big one. Can they get ahead of the footy? I think their best forward line is good enough. Darling, who was not there. Allen.
Small forward wise, who's their small forward?
Liam Ryan. He was best on ground. He was best on ground, Liam Ryan, and he looks outstanding.
Liam Ryan, but he was also used
high,
a bit higher. Yeah.
So there are 3. Jamie Cripps plays there. He's on first on the board every week, and then you got to get goal kickers. Petrocelli.
Waterman's got it. This is a D-Day year, should I say, if that makes sense for Jake. No,
yeah, absolutely it is. But he came on halfway through the last quarter. But they didn't play him.
No, but having said that, apparently when we were in the car going home, he was dominant in that.
Well, good, but
simulation stuff.
How this stuff's work is right at this moment he's not in the round 1 side. They played Bailey Williams, Cal Jamison as those 2 guys. So you got to slot one of those in there. If it's Darling and another one, you need a proper small crumbing forward, which is what Noah Long is. I know we didn't see
much of it,
enough of it in the practice game, but from all reports, that's what he is. He gets the right spots, he crumbs, he defends, he does all of that. So that's why I think they're excited about him. But, just talking about that without preparation, I mean, they don't have goal-kicking small forwards jumping off the page, do they?
As opposed to Port Adelaide, who we saw had, they're well served, aren't they?
Fantasia,
Rioli.
Rosie was running around.
Yeah, he was. It's probably his touch.
Yeah.
And when he had the footy, it was just no wonder he's an Australian. He was just outstanding.
They were also playing Horn Francis out of the goal square when he was resting. That was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was on like a Tom Barras and he was marking on him.
Tell you what, I don't know why I look at social media sometimes, but he cops a lot of stick. A lot. I know that the change, maybe it's North supporters. A bit pissed at him, but gee whiz, that Port side
was pretty good. I thought he was pretty good. And I saw socials and they were going nuts at him. The one criticism, if I could have one, is he's still playing like a
underage
strong kid against kids. But when you go to shrug or you think you got time or you think you can muscle your way through against men, you can't. And so he got pulverised a couple of times and. Looked to step when he should have given a couple of times, but that's what young players do.
He's played 17 matches, and you know what the issue
bar
was,
gets set very high.
Well, the problem is the number that he went in the draft. That's why there's
if he was picked 20, and he
even picked 5.
That's a very good point. If he was picked, let's go back. If he was outside the top 10, right, 15 pick, and he played at North Melbourne for a year, wanted to go home people would have been like, like Jack Bowes.
Yeah.
Jack Bowes, who's just gone from gold. No one. He's a top 10 draft pick. No one could care less.
No. No one knew about it.
Tara Bruin eats, I don't know. Like
it's a number that's associated. That's and the stories like the ice bath. We've heard about him. That's part of the reason he didn't play. And look, either way, I'll tell you what, Port. Whatever,
it'll be very good.
That'll be a win for them. Charlie
Charlie Dixon didn't play, but he'll come back into that starting forward line with Todd Marshall, who was impressive. Had a good battle with Tom Brass again. Jeremy McGovern was very good for West Coast. Elliot Yeo was good through the middle of the ground. We spoke about Elijah Hewitt. He did two things. There was one where he was chasing the ball. He ran past two players, grabbed it, changed directions, and sort of shrugged them all off the other way, and he came through and had clearance. And then the goal that you and I called, it was just funny watching it back because, you would call it play-by-play. And as the special comments guy, you sort of meant to give you...
Insight.
And space. Don't speak over the top, basically. Like, number one rule like when you're working together is you try not to speak over each other, right? But sometimes when things happen, like because I was watching him, the play before, remember I'd called just number 8, yellow boots, watch him. So I was watching him and I just saw him do it, bang, tap, clean. And I was, wow, over the top. And then he let you come through. And then my next words were, ho, 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 ho. I was pretty excited with what I'd seen from him. But again, he wasn't, I would say he's not in the round one side right now. But moments, that's what the exciting thing about pre-season for young guys is. Apparently he took a really good mark after you and I packed up and left. Those sorts of things, the coaches will look at it like I do, and he hasn't had 35 and played 100 minutes, but he's done two things that are extreme AFL quality, and they know if they put him in that he's ready. Like he may not be in round one, but if they play him, if he did that twice in a game, like it might be 2 goals. Like that's big in a game of AFL footy. Yeah. If you could do that once every week, that some guys make careers on it, and I'm sure he's going to get better.
Yeah, look, I'd called a lot of his footy, whether it's the Swans,
you've seen more than I have.
In the Waffle, even going through the grades there. So having spoken to guys at the Footy Commission, he's got this great self-confidence and belief, and as long as he can adhere long term to the team aspect of footy, I think that we know you can see the skills are there. So just about adjusting,
which you learn with time,
as a lot of young players do, adjusting from being that elite player,
the guy,
to okay, your role this week isn't that. It's to maybe follow a player.
Assume at senior level though at Waffle, he wasn't the guy.
No,
he's still a kid because he played senior footy last year, right?
Yep,
that's what he looked like to me. Actions and the way he moved, he didn't look like a kid playing against me. He looked like a young player who had done it before that can get better. He didn't look out of his depth. Just those two little things. You see young kids. So Noah Long, right? he to me looked, not out of his depth,
but more undersized.
Yeah, he was just sort of learning what he was doing. He was sort of figuring it out, and as the game went on, he kind of built his way in.
And when the game opened up, you could see he got up the ground a bit more. No, I would
like Hewitt comes in, like the first thing he does, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
And look, we haven't even seen Ruben Jimby yet. Hopefully that'll happen on Friday. And for both matches, Port v Fremantle and Adelaide v West Coast, I know they're 4:30 starts, but gee, it's going to be nice and warm. It's 37, 38 degrees those days.
So Thursday and Friday are those games. I don't know which one's which. I think I'm calling both, and I don't know which one.
Adelaide's Thursday, and then the Eagles on Friday.
You should be my sort of PA or something.
Well, I wouldn't mind just working a bit more with you.
No, that was good. It was
good fun. I was a bit nervous. It's first game back. Yeah. You are. Well, you rocked up with your sunglasses and chatted to all the staff and just you wandered through the facility like you're still wearing the jumper. I'm sitting there. I've actually written out every player with numbers and stats, etc. Scully, didn't even bring a pen. Did you bring a pen?
No, I never do, and I always
just
feel,
something.
See, I always feel bad because you guys have always got prep, and mind you, I think I handle myself pretty well.
Wow!
But
ooh, wow!
Special comments, right? But I always get there and I never have a pen, and I always want to hold a pen. I never write anything down.
No, you're like Spurry. Spurry doesn't even bring he brings nothing.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't think I bought too much. It's what's special, Skeeter.
Anyway, footy's coming up this weekend. This will be the last hit out, and we're looking forward to it.
We're going to go quick whip through the other games. Shout out FootyCast, Mark Reynings, Will Schofield. Geelong Hawthorn. Geelong smash Hawthorn. Best player there, Ollie Henry, 4 goals. It's exciting for them.
The brothers
Yes.
might be playing a bit together this year.
Although Jack did injure himself,
Yes.
hurt his foot.
Might be in doubt for it. They need someone for round 1 against Collingwood with Hawkins obviously out. So look,
They're trialling people in front of the footy.
they're pretty well served. I'm not sure Hawthorn with their youth. It's going to be a bit of a tough.
They're not
year.
expecting to play finals this
No.
year, Hawthorn. They want to get miles into their players. They've got a really young leadership group with a new captain in Sicily and effectively a new coach in Sam Mitchell. They want to build together. Sam Mitchell thinks they have their next premiership side here. It reminds me of John Worsfold with West Coast. We won the wooden spoon, and he was getting peppered in the media, and we were young. And he said something to that ilk, like, I have West Coast's next premiership side right here. I know you can't see it right now, but that's what it'll be. And that's what Hawthorn is. You can't see it right now, but
No.
Josh Ward, Will Day, Dylan Moore, he's a gun. Even Kaczynski, guys like that. They may not be right this moment, premiership players, but they will be. If they stick together, and they can be.
And they'll add to that
can
list
be.
in the next
Correct.
2 or 3.
Essendon, Gold Coast. Essendon beat Gold Coast for those playing along at home. I don't have Essendon very high this year on the ladder. I think they're struggling key position-wise. They have Peter Wright, who's a good player, not great yet. I think they struggle behind the footy key position, and I don't think they have much to support Peter Wright. I think it's been a difficult year for Essendon.
Yeah, I agree. And we're speaking of the captaincy changes, Zach Merritt gets the role with Dyson Heppel standing down. I think that's all the captains complete now. They've been 9 or 10 easily.
Yeah.
I'm a bit with you. Essendon's an interesting one.
Brisbane? I don't think we've had Brisbane's.
Yeah, whether it's Lockie Neal as a replacement for Dane Zorko. But Bombers, Gold Coast, didn't see it. But there's enough there from Essendon to think they'll be improved under Brad Scott, but not. They're a team that I think middle table best.
I think Gold Coast will be better than Essendon this year, for what it's worth. Richmond, North Melbourne. Richmond beat North Melbourne with 2 points again, for what it's worth. The person here that caught eyes was Sheasel, I believe.
North Melbourne,
Yeah.
number 3 draft pick from top of memory.
Young pick, kicked 2 goals. One of them was with his first kick. People were frothing on him. He looks good.
Sheasel.
Yeah, Sheasel. And good name to call.
Oh, mate, Sheasel. I mean, you know, I like the Sheasels, but that's Sheasel.
Griffin Logue apparently was very good as well. So he went to the footy club, North Melbourne, with Alistair Clarkson telling him he was going to make him an All-Australian defender. I don't know if that... I'm sure that's been out there, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I know that's fact.
Yeah, okay.
So they have huge hopes for him. Looks like the sort of player, if you back him with confidence, he has all the tools to be a very good defender. So sometimes with these sorts of guys, you need someone in your corner saying, this is it. The other one with Richmond, Taranto, Hopper in that midfield, that new midfield. I think Richmond's going to be very good this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've got so many... and apparently Dusty, who's playing a lot closer to goal...
That's
he's
scary.
been through the passing of his father, been through some difficult times, obviously injury wise as well. But if he is afforded the luxury, this is Dimmer Hardwick, of leaving his gun that close to goal, when you think of Lynch, Revolt floating, I mean,
If you put... Oh, mate, that's a scary,
It's a scary forward line.
And then they've got the midfield. They've still got the midfield.
my
Taranto, Hopper, Prestea, like they've got all
my
those...
kid Shea Bolton just doing his...
Oh, yes. He is your very, very favourite.
But you're right. If they play to their optimum, I don't even think I got them at 8. I might have to reassess that. But they are seriously
You
good.
don't have Richmond in your
Well, we
eight,
had to drop 2 out. Remember?
and you've dropped Richmond.
Where have you got them?
Top 4.
Top 4.
I've got them top 4. I did mine yesterday. Maybe we could do a proper one Thursday.
Yeah.
I've got a full ladder, and they're in my top 4, as were Melbourne, as were Brisbane weren't, Geelong were.
So I've got Brisbane in my top 5. I think their midfield's
I'll reveal.
Gonna be good.
We'll reveal on Thursday. Carlton Collingwood, 2 guys I want to talk about here. Mackay, 3 goals in the first quarter. Is he coming off the Coleman medal, or is Curnow? He is, right? He won the Coleman medal last year. Mackay? Yeah.
I thought it was Curnow. Was that the year before?
One of them did. Mackay, 3 goals in the first quarter, put him on ice. And McStay down the other end of Collingwood. I keep forgetting that Collingwood have
Big
picked
pickup.
Yeah.
Tom Mitchell, midfield good. Bobby Hill, great. End of the day, I think Dan McStay is going to be so important to Collingwood.
They haven't had a forward. Like they had Curnow won, perfect.
Curnow,
Just some shock.
Yeah.
They've had Myercheck, who's a good player.
Do you think, not since, dare I say, I might be wrong, Travis Cloak, that was a type...
Anthony Rocker.
No, I was just saying more recent times. But
Yeah, they haven't had that guy, have they? No.
They won a lot of close games last year, Collingwood, but they're recruiting. Why can't they finish high again?
I had them fading. I actually had them fading. So they were top 4, and I had them faded out of the 4. I might have to reassess.
It's hard. It's hard to squeeze these good sides potentially.
Brisbane defeat Sydney by a fair bit. Sydney I have out of the top 8, just for those playing along at home. I just think that they've got a few mental things to work through after getting smashed in a grand final and maybe getting to that grand final a little early, and now the expectations there rather than a Fremantle who performed well last year and building. They have expectation, Fremantle, but it's not off the back of a grand final that they didn't make top 4. So they have something to aim for. Sydney, it's like, we only have to get this much better, but there's now a lot of pressure. Don't know. I could be completely wrong with that.
They're always hard to beat in Sydney, though. It's a bit like, WA team.
Yes.
You expect to win 7, 8 games at home.
Brisbane's picked up a few people in the off-season. They've lost Mick Stay to Collingwood, of course, but they've picked up Jack Gunston from Hawthorn. He kicked 3.
Josh Dunkley
kicked 2 goals in the midfield, dominated. And Ashcroft, who's their young
the son of a gun.
son. He's in there dominating in the midfield.
He's playing round 1. In fact, he's playing every game of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Darcy Wilmot as well. Apparently, I've heard some good things about him. He's a younger guy. Brisbane look like they've added to their list. People are saying they have the best list in the AFL. They may well do, but you still need to put it together.
Yeah, and they've still got to win at the MCG, which they've struggled. I've got them really high, really high. So at the Gabba, they're going to be so tough to beat, particularly on a Saturday afternoon when it's hot and it's all greasy at night. Mate, they've got the Gabba's as much an advantage, I think, as playing at Optus. Don't you think?
You may as well be out the back in a garbage dump there, away rooms, like just the worst.
Oh, really?
The Gabba. Just shocking, mate. That's like some sort of chemical smell floats through the rooms. You got up and down stairs. You get tired down there. It's hard work in the bowels of the Gabba. Don't enjoy it at all.
They're going to rip it down, by the way. And it's going to be the Olympic Stadium in 2032.
Oh, that will be good. Melbourne and St Kilda, the last game. This is the last one I've got to run off. Melbourne, very good. I have them very high. I think Melbourne and Richmond, for me, even though Melbourne finished second on the ladder last year, yeah, I have Melbourne, Richmond,
Richmond, Collingwood. You got Geelong going back to back.
Collingwood. Geelong going back to back. Yeah. Look, I confuse myself sometimes, but I think Melbourne are going to be very good. They played a St Kilda side who I think are not going to be very good.
A lot of injuries. Jack Billings, I think the latest with they've got heaps of players out for round 1, which if you're a Docker supporter, that's a good time to get them, even though it's at Marvel where they'll play with some spirit, you'd think, but Fremantle can get the job done first up.
Gawn and Grundy, the combination Melbourne everyone was watching for. Grundy spent a lot of time in the ruck. Gawn more time forward than some people thought. Will that work? On the back of how I think games are going to go, that speed, they'll get an advantage from centre bounce, and they'll get an advantage around the ground. But I don't think having 2 guys like that who have been All-Australian ruckman over the last 5, 6, 7 years is going to be just this massive golden advantage. No, they you'd rather them in your team than not, clearly. But I think it's going to be really interesting how they use those 2 players with the speed of the game. Saw Chris Scott come out this morning for Geelong and speak about the speed and that every team wants to have a fast mode. It's really interesting watching games, the modes that teams go through. You get slow when you're trying to slow down the game and take a bit of heat off it. But every team has to have a go. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's like a go mode. You mark the ball, and we saw West Coast do it a lot. Just get it and run.
And sometimes fraught with danger. We saw one where Petruccelli finished off a goal in the pocket and it came through
10 handballs,
hands, and then you thought this is going to come undone, but it's the risk element.
Yep.
But given, as you say, the way footy's been played, looks like it's going to be played this year, you're going to have to roll the dice to get results.
That's right. We're done and dusted here. Shelter FootyCast, Mark Readings, Will Schofield. Send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. You can follow us at Instagram, Shelter FootyCast. On the new feed, we have one. Subscribe. You can still get it. We're getting it right now, but we're just giving you a bit of time to swap over. And Skeeter will sort the Apple podcast out at some stage, won't you, Skeeter?
Busselton, here we come. The Shelter boys are heading your way. Looking forward to a long weekend. We might even have a couple ourselves.
A couple of sours. You beauty.